If you've ever walked through an older neighbourhood and noticed a small metal door set low into the foundation of a house, flush with the ground or just above it, hinged and painted over and long since sealed shut, that was a coal chute. Most people walk past them without knowing what they are. A generation ago, everyone knew. It was how your house stayed warm. This is the story of how that system worked and why it doesn't anymore. Picture a morning in late October, 1948. The first real cold of the season has settled in overnight. You can feel it in the kitchen before the furnace catches up. Sometime that week, maybe that day, a truck will come down your street. It's a heavy truck, dusty and black along the sides, no matter how often it gets washed. The driver knows your address. He's been coming since before you moved in. He backs the truck toward the side of the house, where the small iron door sits in the foundation wall just above the ground. He pulls a metal chute from the side of the truck, a long open trough of corrugated steel, and angles it down through the little door into the darkness below. Then he opens the gate on the truck bed and the coal starts moving. It comes down fast, hundreds of pounds of it, black and angular and loud, filling the basement bin with a roar that shakes the floor above. The whole thing takes 10 minutes. He pulls the chute, latches the door, marks his clipboard, and drives to the next house on the block. Down in the basement, the coal sits in its bin, enough to last weeks if the winter stayed mild, less if it did not. Your father would shovel it into the furnace every morning and every evening. He would check the damper, adjust the draft, and, over the years, learn the particular temperament of that furnace, how much coal it wanted on a cold night, how little it needed to hold through to morning. The house had a rhythm built around that furnace. Everyone in it knew the rhythm without thinking about it. Coal heat was not new in 1948. It had been the dominant fuel for American homes since the late 1800s, when the expansion of the railroad network made it possible to move coal cheaply from the mining regions of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky into cities and towns across the country. Before coal, most homes burned wood. Wood was local and manageable, but labour-intensive. You had to cut it, split it, stack it, and feed a fire that required constant attention. Coal burned hotter and longer. A properly banked coal furnace could hold heat through the night with minimal tending. For a growing industrial country full of people who worked long hours and did not have time to tend fires, that was a meaningful difference. By the early 20th century, the coal furnace had become standard equipment in American homes. Builders designed houses around it. The basement was not just storage, it was mechanical space, organised around the furnace and the coal bin beside it. The chute door was built into the foundation as a matter of course, positioned on the side of the house, closest to the street so the delivery truck could reach it without driving across the lawn. It was a functional detail, as considered as the placement of a window or the pitch of a roof. The coal itself came in different grades. Anthracite was the premium variety, hard and dense, burning clean and hot with relatively little smoke. Bituminous was softer and cheaper, more common in the Midwest and the South, smokier but serviceable. A family chose their coal the way they chose other household staples, based on what was available, what they could afford, and what their furnace was built to burn. The coalman knew all of this. He kept records. He knew which houses took anthracite and which took bituminous, which bins held 3 tons and which held 2 tons. He was a regular presence in the neighbourhood, as familiar as the milkman or the iceman, part of the infrastructure of daily life that most people never thought about until it did not show up. The system worked. For decades, it worked reliably and well. Then 2 things changed, and they changed together in a way that made coal heat obsolete within the span of a single generation. The first was natural gas. American cities had gas lines running under their streets for decades, originally to fuel street lamps and later to supply kitchen stoves. But gas heat in homes was limited by the reach of the distribution network. Through the 1930s and the 1940s, that network expanded steadily. After World War II, it expanded rapidly. New suburban neighbourhoods were built with gas lines already in the ground. Existing homes in cities were connected as the lines extended block by block. Gas was cleaner than coal, required no storage, no delivery, no bin in the basement, no ash to dispose of. You turned a dial and the furnace lit. The temperature held itself. There was nothing to shovel and nothing to tend. For a post-war generation that was building new houses, buying new appliances, and generally remaking domestic life around convenience and modernity, gas heat was not a luxury. It was an obvious choice. It was also cheaper to operate as the natural gas infrastructure matured and supply increased. The second factor was oil. Fuel oil offered many of the same advantages as gas for homes that could not yet reach a gas line. An oil furnace required a tank, usually buried in the yard or kept in the basement, and a periodic delivery truck. But the delivery came through a hose, not a chute. The basement stayed clean. The furnace ran automatically. The family did not need to think about it the way they had thought about the coal furnace. Oil heat moved into the northeast and rural areas where gas lines were slow to arrive, and displaced coal there the way gas was displacing it everywhere else. Together, gas and oil took the coal furnace apart, market by market, through the 1950s and into the 1960s. Families who converted almost never went back. The coal bin in the basement got cleaned out and used for storage. The chute door got sealed. The coalmen stopped coming down the street. The coal dealers who had supplied neighbourhoods for generations closed or converted to oil delivery. The shovels came up from the basements. The furnaces were pulled out and replaced with gas or oil units that ran quietly and required almost nothing from the people living above them. A whole vocabulary went with it: banking the furnace, checking the draft, reading the damper. Skills that fathers had passed to sons as a matter of course became unnecessary within a decade, and were forgotten within 2 decades. What remained were the chute doors. They are sealed and painted over, set into the foundations of houses that are still standing in older neighbourhoods in every American city. They show up occasionally when someone renovates a basement and finds the old bin still outlined in the concrete, or when a homeowner notices that small iron door and wonders what it was for. They are the most physical remnant of a system that heated American homes for the better part of a century, and then disappeared so completely that most people living in those same homes have no idea it ever existed. There's something worth sitting with in that erasure. The coal furnace required something from the people who depended on it. It required attention and physical labour and a working knowledge of how it behaved. The man of the house who tended that furnace every morning wasn't performing a ritual. He was doing necessary work. The house would not stay warm without him. That relationship, between a person and the system keeping them alive through winter, was direct and legible, in a way that almost nothing in a modern house is. When you turn up a thermostat today, you don't think about what happens next. Something does. Somewhere. Invisibly. The house warms. The system that makes that possible is entirely outside your understanding and entirely outside your involvement. That's convenient. It's also a different kind of relationship to the place you live than the one your grandparents had. The coal chute is sealed now. The bin is empty. But if you press your hand against that little iron door on the side of an old house in late October, when the air has the first real bite of the season in it, you're touching something that kept people alive through hard winters for a very long time. That's worth knowing, even if the door never opens again. If you grew up in a house with a coal furnace, or if your parents did, leave a comment below. Tell us where the house was and what you remember about it. The smell of the coal bin, the sound of the delivery truck, the particular weight of a winter morning before the furnace caught up. Those details don't exist in any archive. They only exist with you. If this is the kind of history you want more of, subscribing helps this channel keep going. Every video we make looks at another piece of American daily life that quietly changed, and tries to understand what it meant while it was still there.